Chief Ralvan scales rippled with barely contained fury as he stormed through the corridors of Station Theta 7. His talons clicked against the metal flooring with each heavy step, and the junior officers wisely pressed themselves against the walls to let him pass. The Crithian commander had faced down pirate fleets, negotiated with hostile alien coalitions, and survived 3 assassination attempts. But nothing had prepared him for this particular crisis. Someone had stolen the sacred cubs of Varath. Not just any cubs. These were the offspring of the matriarch herself, destined to become the next generation of Crithian leadership. Their disappearance could spark a diplomatic incident that would make the Titan Wars look like a minor disagreement. Every species on the station was a suspect, and Ralvan had approximately 6 hours before the Crithian fleet arrived, demanding answers he didn't have. The security footage had been useless, corrupted at precisely the right moment. The environmental seals showed no breaches. The cubs had simply vanished from their protected nursery, as if they'd evaporated into space itself. Ralvan's communicator buzzed. "Sir, we've completed interviews with all station personnel. Everyone has an alibi except..." "Except who?" Ralvan growled. "The human, sir. Maris Kellen. She was in Sector 7 Blue during the incident. Alone. Of course it was the human." Ralvan's inner eyelids flickered with exasperation. Humans had been part of the Galactic Coalition for barely 2 decades. And in that time, they'd developed a reputation for being simultaneously helpful and utterly chaotic. They had a disturbing tendency to adopt anything they found cute, regardless of whether the creature in question was sentient, dangerous, or sacred. "Bring her to Observation Deck 3, Ralvan ordered. Now. Maris Kellen entered the observation deck 15 minutes later, and Ralvan immediately noticed something was off. The human was wearing an oversized gray hoodie, unusual for someone who typically wore the standard station jumpsuit. Her hands were shoved deep into the front pocket, and she walked with an odd, careful gait, as if balancing something fragile. "Miss Kellen," Ralvan began, his voice like gravel scraping against steel. "I'm going to ask you a direct question, and I expect a direct answer." "Okay," Maris said, her voice surprisingly calm for someone standing before a 2.5-meter tall apex predator. Ralvan leaned forward, his golden eyes fixed on her. "Who took the cubs?" For a moment, Maris didn't respond. She simply stood there, looking almost guilty. Then, slowly, something moved in her hood. 2 tiny, furred paws emerged from the fabric near her shoulders. Then 2 more. And 2 more after that. Ralvan's threat display froze mid-activation. 3 small, impossibly adorable faces peeked out from the depths of Maris's hood, the missing sacred cubs of Varath. Their large, luminous eyes blinked up at the chief with complete innocence. One of them yawned, displaying tiny needle-sharp teeth, before nuzzling back against Maris's neck. "I can explain," Maris said quickly. Ralvan's jaw worked silently for several seconds. "You stole the sacred cubs?" "I didn't steal them," Maris protested. "I was walking past the nursery when I heard crying. The door was malfunctioning, stuck half open. When I looked inside, the temperature had dropped to near freezing. The climate control had failed." Ralvan's anger faltered. "The climate control? I reported it immediately, but maintenance said it would take 2 hours to get someone there." 2 hours, Chief. These cubs are cold adapted, but they're still babies. They were already hypothermic." Maris's voice took on that peculiar edge that humans developed when discussing creatures they decided to protect. "So yes, I took them. I put them in my hoodie because humans run hot about 37 degrees Celsius. They warmed up within minutes." As if to confirm her story, one of the cubs stretched and made a contented chirping sound. Another had apparently fallen asleep, its tiny chest rising and falling against Maris's collarbone. Ralvan pulled up the maintenance logs on his datapad. Sure enough, there it was, an environmental failure in the nursery sector, reported by Maris Kellen at the exact time the cubs had disappeared. The repair hadn't been completed until 47 minutes ago. "Why?" Ralvan said slowly. "Didn't you bring them to the medical bay?" Maris shifted uncomfortably. "I tried. But every time I moved toward the door, they started crying. They'd just gotten warm and comfortable. I figured I'd wait until maintenance fixed the nursery, then bring them back. She paused. I was going to report in, but then all the alarms started going off, and I thought moving through the station with them might be worse than just staying put. It was the most reasonable and simultaneously most ridiculous explanation Ralvin had ever heard. The human had inadvertently triggered a station-wide crisis because she'd been worried about disturbing sleeping babies. Do you have any idea, Ralvin said, his voice dangerously quiet, what you've done? The Crithian matriarch is en route with a battle fleet. I've had to lock down the entire station. 3 different ambassadors have lodged formal complaints. I know, Maris said miserably. I'm sorry. They were so cold, Chief. One of the cubs chose that moment to fully emerge from the hood, climbing onto Maris's shoulder with surprising agility. It looked directly at Ralvin and chirped the same sound Crithian cubs made when greeting their parents. Ralvin felt something in his chest crack. The cub trusted her. All 3 of them did. They were purring. He could hear it now. A soft, thrumming sound that indicated complete contentment. Humans, Ralvin reflected, were going to be the death of him. You're going to explain this to the matriarch yourself, he said finally. Maris paled. Chief, you're going to explain that you saved her cubs when our systems failed. That you put their welfare above protocol. That you used your own body heat to keep them alive. Ralvin's scales shifted to a lighter shade, the Crithian equivalent of a smile. And you're going to let her see how much they trust you. Will that help? The Crithians value action over intention. Miss Kellen, you acted to protect the vulnerable. That matters. He paused. Though you're still getting written up for causing a station-wide panic. That's fair, Maris admitted. The cubs chirped in unison, and despite everything, the stress, the diplomatic nightmare, the near-certain reprimand he'd received from Command Ralvin, found himself making the rumbling sound that passed for Crithian laughter. Humans. Absolutely chaotic. But perhaps, he thought, watching Maris gently stroke one cub's fuzzy head, that chaos wasn't entirely a bad thing. After all, the cubs were safe, warm, and happy. Sometimes, that was enough.